Welcome back to the Rami Lavi podcast, and the Knicks have played their first home preseason game. Oh, how did obviously Carl Anthony Towns? He looked great in the white uniform. We had Mikal Bridges. Just kidding. Okay, I don't care about any of that stuff. Although I did see some highlights of that. What we're here to talk about is obviously the Rangers. The Rangers played their first game of the regular season. I didn't even know, like, this was a secret. They didn't tell anyone they were starting the hockey season. I found out yesterday that they were starting the hockey season. I talked to John Jastrzemski about that tonight. I was like, JJ, I had no idea they were starting the hockey season. And then I found out today the Rangers were starting today. And guess what? Shout out to the Twitter, whoever does the algorithm, however that works, because shout out to the Twitter algorithm. I didn't see a single hockey highlight on the Twitter algorithm tonight. And that is because the two baseball teams and what's going on in this town right now. And specifically, we'll start with them because the New York Mets. And this is what I keep saying. It's chaos, it's magic, it's madness every single time. And this team delivers every single time, from an entertainment factor, from a fun factor, a wow factor, and then, oh my God, because that's the only thing you could say, they just can't stop winning. And every single time, and I was going to come on here last night, but in case you haven't noticed, if you follow me on social media, Rami Levy, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, wherever you get your social medias, if you're watching this on YouTube or on the podcast feed, follow me on social media. I think all my links are in the description. But I've been working pretty much double shifts because I've been working digital for the Yankees and Mets playoff games. We've been putting out this great content. We have Howie Rose calling the Mets games for Odyssey Mets Radio, and then we have John and Susan on WFAN. We have the Sterling Cam, and it's so awesome that I've been getting this opportunity to work, and I've had a ton of fun doing this. But I've been just swamped with work, and then I'm running to the studio to do live shows and all these things and produce shows. So it's been a ton, and I'm so grateful for these opportunities because this is once in a lifetime. I don't remember the last time both these teams were this good, this hot at the same time. In fact, the last time was 2000 when they made the World Series and they ended up playing each other in the World Series. I think the last time they won a playoff game on the same date was 2006 or something like that. So we have to go back 20 to 25 years ago for the last time both these teams were this good at the same time, this much fun in the playoffs. And so I haven't had the chance, but last night, after the Mets won that game, the way that they won it, it was almost easy that win. And while I'm recording this now early Thursday morning, so I guess we're talking 2 nights ago, we're talking about game 3 on Tuesday night. It was insane. It was like, I had all the confidence in the world. I'm like, they're not going back to Philly. They're 1000% winning in game 4. And then game 4 comes around. In game 4, they have opportunity after opportunity, and they squander it, and they squander it again. And yet still, with every opportunity in the game that the Mets squandered, every time someone came up to the plate with a big chance to be the hero, to chance to get the big hit, I was confident. I was like, the Mets are going to get it done. They're going to find a way to finally break through. And then finally, of course, who else would it be but Francisco Lindor? And watching it and listening to how he rose, I was losing my mind. I was emotional. It was crazy. How does this team, and specifically Lindor, do it again and again and again? The guy who literally broke his back carrying this team in the regular season, dragging them to the postseason. And then when you thought they were dead, he hit one home run at the end of the postseason, at the end of the regular season. Then the home run to get them into the postseason, obviously in Atlanta. And then he does it a freaking again. Every single time you needed something, it's Francisco Lindor right in the middle of it. And now it's not only Lindor. How about Mark Vientos in the postseason he's had? Look at Pete Alonso. He has the biggest home run of his Mets career and then comes back, hits the leadoff home run, or the first home run, I should say, to get them going in game 3 at home, the first playoff game at home. And since 2022, obviously, he's the one who hits it. First division series game at home since 2015, I think. He's the one who hits it. Craziness. And I mean, this Mets team, it's just magic. That's what I said. And it feels like, and this is what it feels like today. And I look, I don't think this is hyperbole. Sometimes when there's magic, sometimes when a team just can do no wrong, when they always find a way and you trust, and that's the one thing that's different than any other Met team. No matter how far the Mets went, as a Mets fan, you always expected the worst to happen. You always expected the other shoe to drop. With this Mets team, you expect them to find a way, no matter what, no matter the circumstances, no matter how dire, no matter how many times they've blown it. Even when Diaz comes in the 9th inning and they make it interesting, they got runners on, Schwarber, who's killed them at the plate. Harper looming on deck, the whole situation. Everyone knows what's going on in that spot. And still, the Mets pulled through, and they've done it time and time again. And you expect them because that's the one difference with this team than any other Mets team of my life. Every other Mets team of my life, you could say that they were good teams, and in the end, they got it done. You never expect them to get it done. This team, whether it's Nimmo, whether it's Lindor, whether it's Alonso now, whether it's any one of these guys and JD Martinez and Tyrone Taylor and just insane. Obviously, Iglesias, Vientos, of course. You expect someone to come through. They're going to get the big hit. They're going to get it done. When they were up 2-0 and they get the bases loaded in game 3 and they get 2 outs in a row. And I'm like, I have Yankee PTSD from watching Yankee playoff games. Like, they're not going to score any runs here. It's going to be a big momentum shift. Everyone's talking about it. And then no, Starling Marte comes through with a 2-out, 2-run single, makes it a 4-run game, and they never look back. Every time they need the big hit, every time they need the big moment, the huge double play that they got tonight, just time and time again, the New York Mets come through. And when that happens, when there's that kind of magic in the air, there's no other way for me to put this. The New York Mets are going to win the World Series. That's what it feels like today. As I record this on the morning of October 10th, the New York Mets are the most likely team in baseball to win the World Series. They are a freight train right now that cannot be stopped. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but from where they were in the season, and I was on them this whole time, go check my Twitter, go check my TikTok, go check my Instagram. I was on this team. I said in June, they're the most entertaining team. They're not that bad. Look, don't look now. They have an easy schedule coming up. That's what I said. They've been entertaining all year, and they've been one of the best teams since the beginning of June, the best team in baseball. And now they're going to the NLCS, and the Padres and the Dodgers are still beating up on each other. So who knows what we're going to get by the time. And that's the only negative is like the last time we saw the Mets have a layoff of a couple of days because of the hurricane, they couldn't play those games in Atlanta. They came out flat in Milwaukee 2 days later. And it feels like the Mets have never been flat, right? Because this whole season from June, basically, they've been in desperation mode. They've been in playoff mode. And something interesting, and I'll get to this at the end because it's an interesting thought that I had developed about last week. And so I want to talk about it. But it feels like the Mets have just been backs against the wall. Every day's a fight, desperation mode for now 5 months. And because of that, like you don't want that momentum to stop. You want them to keep having games. Now they're going to have a little bit of a layoff before they go out to California. It's almost like, no, I want them to play tomorrow. They're probably not going to play at least till the earliest Sunday, I guess, when the NLCS starts. But just magical stuff from the New York Mets. And I don't care who they play. I don't care if it's the Dodgers. I don't care if it's the Padres. The Padres I thought were unbeatable. They just lost, 9-10-0 tonight to the Dodgers. So it's just magic from the New York Mets, and to hear Howie on these calls and to see the emotion on the face of Brandon Nimmo. I mean, you feel it. He's seen the up and down. And as a Jets fan and how much I've talked with Bilal and everyone else about the Rob Saleh situation and Woody Johnson, like I could only dream of having an owner like Steve Cohen. He was lowering ticket prices down to $80 so that they could just get as many fans in standing room only. Just get in the building. I'll give away the tickets for $80. Just get in the building. Just get as many people in here as possible. I want to see the fans enjoy this. And boy, do the fans enjoy this. I've never seen Citi Field like that in my entire life. Even the 15 run, I don't remember seeing Citi Field look like that. And they clinched their first time clinching a series at home in Citi Field. So in the 16 years of its existence, unbelievable, remarkable stuff. And then you look on the contrast on the other side, and it's the Yankees, and it's this team that's supposed to get it done. That has the expectation that the Kansas City Royals, who were 12-1 against Chicago White Sox this year, and if it's not for those games, this is a middle of the pack team, and they shouldn't be this good, and the Yankees should be wiping the floor with them. I'm sitting there expecting them to win, and because of it, the Yankee game isn't enjoyable. It isn't fun. It's just frustrating because you're waiting for something negative to happen because you expect because they should just sweep the floor with them. And it feels like in the 2 games they've won, they've gotten lucky to win them. Game 1, just all those walks, Kansas City handed it to them. Game 2, the Yankees can't come through with any clutch hits. And then game 3, Giancarlo Stanton puts the team on his back. And for all the people who are saying, oh, how's Giancarlo in line? Giancarlo is not supposed to be running and stealing bases, although he stole a base tonight. The point of him is that you hope he runs into one and he gets big hits and he hits a home run. And that's what he did. He hit a home run in this game. That was the difference in this game. He had an RBI double. That was the difference in this game. And so for the Yankees, it's such a different scenario, but you thought you'd bring in Juan Soto, it would be different. Well, guess what? Nothing's going to change for the Aaron Judge Yankee era. And this is where it's going to happen because everyone talks about, oh, we have to put the team around Judge. Judge, you have to load the deck, right? Stack the deck. You have Aaron Judge in his prime. You have Gerrit Cole in his prime. Well, nothing's going to change for the Yankees and their playoff hopes until Aaron Judge starts helping himself, until he starts coming through in these big moments. Because until he does, nothing's going to change. And so the Yankees are lucky to be leading in the series up 2-1. Now's the time. If you're the New York Yankees, you have your ace going in game 4. Gerrit Cole, you sucked in game 1. Go out there and shove and prove why you're the ace, prove why you're making the money you're making, and then just take a deep breath and get into the championship series. You don't want to get into a game 5 at home with the Kansas City Royals. You just don't want to be in that spot. All the pressure's on you coming back home. You have your best starter with a guy who's supposed to be one of the best starters in baseball on the mound, Gerrit Cole. This is on you. Go out there tonight and shove against the Kansas City Royals. End this series in Kansas City, and then we'll have both New York teams in the championship series. A crash course collision headed for another Subway Series. This is unbelievable. My first year working at WFAN was last summer, and both teams missed the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers gets hurt 3 plays in. The Giants lose 40-0, and I'm like, man, I am a jinx. Since then, things have started to look up, and man, a year 2, my first year really working on the Yankee broadcast from a digital side now, it's just for them to meet in the World Series, Yankees and Mets. My freaking God, it would just be mind-boggling. It would it'd just be insane. It would blow my mind. I hope that happens. I dream that happens, but one game at a time. The Yankees, it starts tonight. Gerrit Cole and Aaron Judge. The Yankees, you are the superstars. Cole and Judge. You're lucky that you're leading 2-1 in the series. It's no thanks to any help from you guys. The Yankees should have been swept based on the performances of Aaron Judge and Gerrit Cole so far. So now in game 4, Kansas City tonight, Gerrit Cole, prove why you're the ace of the staff. Aaron Judge, prove why you're one of the best players in baseball. Go out there and dominate and be the great players you're supposed to be. Earn the money that you make. Live up to the players that you are in the regular season and come through one time in the postseason for the New York Yankees and make sure there is no game 5 with all the pressure on the Yankees back at Yankee Stadium against the freaking Kansas City Royals. Now, said I want to talk about something, and I remembered that I thought of this a couple weeks ago. So I haven't had a chance to talk about it. Like I said at the top, I've been kind of busy, but we give all this credit to the New York Mets and we so much hate the Yankees and we get so frustrated with the Yankees where the Mets are like, they play with this desperation. They play with this mentality. They play it so great. And the Yankees, they're just lackadaisical. And I realized it in the last week of the season when the Mets were fighting for their lives and the Yankees were just like kind of limping to the finish line because it didn't matter. They just limped to the finish line and still had the best record in the American League, whereas the Mets had to scratch and claw for everything all the way down to the last game and then go right back to Milwaukee and try and win a game there. And it comes down to the 9th inning. The Mets have had their backs against the walls since the end of May. Any slip up, any extended losing streak, even a back-to-back game losing streak would feel like the season's over. So we give all this credit to the Mets. It's almost been out of necessity. They've had to come through time and time again. They didn't have a choice. They backed themselves into a corner. Whereas the Yankees just had this luxury of just, all right, nothing matters, where he won 94 games and still somehow won the American League. How pathetic is that? There was no pressure ever turned up on the Yankees. And that's part of maybe why they're struggling in the postseason right now is how there's no switch. You can't just flip the switch. You have to play with a level of desperation. But my point really when I thought of it was maybe I'm looking at this all wrong because I was always angry at the Yankees. Oh, they don't play with this desperation. They don't play with this mentality, this toughness. Whereas the Mets, they're so desperate. Every single moment they make the most of it. The Mets had to. The Mets put themselves in such a shitty position that they had to do that. Whereas the Yankees were in such a great position with the way they started the season. It was so lax. So maybe it's not even the Yankees' fault. And maybe the Mets are not this great, incredible team that, they have a level of desperation throughout where they just sucked so bad to start the season. They had to have a level of desperation. Ultimately, it's benefiting the Mets in the long run, and it's hurting the Yankees in the long run. But then you look back at some of the stories around baseball, whether it was the Phillies of 2021 or whether it was the Nationals of 2019, and you think some of these teams that had to put a little bit more emphasis and a little bit more pressure on themselves in the regular season, all of a sudden that benefits them in the long run in the postseason. Maybe there's a correlation there. So just a little thought that I had there. I think maybe that's what it takes from the Yankees. Maybe being in a situation where there's a game 5 and they're under a ton of pressure at home. Maybe that's what it takes for them to wake up and turn it on and feel like their backs are against the wall. And that's how they go into the championship series and on. But I don't want to see it. I want to see them go into Kansas City tonight and win that game. But the New York Mets, I mean, nothing stopping this team. It's magical. It's madness. OMG, Grimace, Game Mets, Huck Tua, Rally Pimp, Pumpkin. God damn it, this team is fucking insane, and I love every second of it. I've never rooted for a team like it. When I saw the Lindor home run, I jumped up. I was losing my mind. It's crazy. I'm not a Mets fan, I swear, but I'm rooting so hard for this team. And you just knew he was going to come through, and still I jumped up. I had to quickly, grab the highlight and post it on social, but I was losing my mind. If you follow me on TikTok and Instagram, you can see on Twitter, I put out the final out call by Howie Rose, which was awesome. Also, Diaz gets himself into trouble, and then he gets himself out of trouble, and Howie Rose makes a great call, and then I put it with the music from Moneyball, and it's on social media, and it's just awesome. So if you want to watch, I've watched it like 50 times already. So if the views look like they're high relative for the amount of views I usually get on social media, it's because I've watched it like 10,000 times already myself. So that's it. Speaking of, it's been a fun social media day for me. I started this morning. I was watching the morning show, Boomer and Gio, and I decided to do a mashup of Giannotti imitating Joe B and then Joe B doing himself and back and forth, whatever, cutting back between real Joe B and Giannotti. And it was very funny. And then I put out the clip of Susan Waldman saying how um, she said that they're showing George Brett on the screen more often than they show Taylor Swift at the Chiefs games. That was funny. Yeah, so those were a couple of things that I put out that kind of popped off on social media. So it's been a big social media day for your boy. It's been fun. This has been a wild time. And then Peter Schrager followed me on just randomly on Twitter. I love Peter Schrager. So hopefully gonna get him on the Jets podcast. Stay tuned. News to come. But until next time, like, subscribe, share the podcast, share this podcast. If you want to hear my Jets thoughts, Bilal and I talk today. That'll be on all the platforms. Believe in Jets. Find it wherever you get your podcasts. And that's pretty much it. Till next time, like, subscribe, share the podcast. Oh, actually, one more thing. I need to add it to the description. I don't know if it's there yet, but I have a new sponsor for the podcast. So happy to announce new sponsor. Clap it up for the podcast. SeatGeek has come on board. So in addition to BetterHelp, where you can use code Rami, for, I think it's 15% off your first month of online therapy, or you could go to Huga House if you're in the need for some cool hats. I think you get 20% off your first order or any order using the code Rami. Or lastly, you go to SeatGeek, and if you use my full name, no space, RAMILAVI, Rami Lavi, on SeatGeek, you get $20 off your first purchase now. You could also just make a new email address and start a new account if you're trying to get it, because this is first purchase only. So don't tell them I told you that. But $20 off. If you're going to these playoff games, they're expensive. Every dollar counts. $20. That could be a beer and a hot dog at the ballpark. So save that money. Use it in the ballpark. $20 off your first order when you use code RAMILAVI, RAMILAVI, full name, no space, all caps. Get $20 off your first order at SeatGeek. Lots of fun stuff going on with basketball and football, basketball and hockey starting, the football games, and obviously baseball playoffs. So get $20 off when the next event that you go to or a concert. I used it for a Pink concert last week. It was awesome. So that will do it for the show. So until next time, like I said, like, subscribe, share the podcast. Appreciate you all for listening. See you.